You told me this in private, but how many kids did you guys want to have?
We wanted to have 4. So now when I see young couples, I tell them, please, don't put it off. Especially if you're a young woman, don't put it off. You can always have a career. You can always, go back to work. You can never just go back to having children. And they grow so fast and so quickly, but
It was a plan built on love, a future meticulously imagined, for children, a house full of laughter and chaos, a life growing together. In a single, sudden moment, that plan was shattered, leaving a widow to rebuild a world around the echoes of what should have been. This is the story of a life interrupted, a family's resilience, and the profound wisdom born from unimaginable loss. Erica Kirk revealed she and Charlie had planned to have 4 children together. This wasn't a casual notion or a distant someday thought, it was a concrete vision, a shared blueprint for their life as a family. The number 4 represented a completeness to them, a specific kind of energy and love they actively sought to cultivate in their home. They had already begun this journey with their 2 young children, a daughter and a son, and were actively preparing their hearts and their lives for the next expansion. This detail, shared in the wake of tragedy, transforms from a simple statistic into a devastating measure of what was lost. It's not just a husband and father who was taken, it's 2 future children who will never be conceived, 2 lifetimes of experiences that will never unfold, and the entire alternate reality of a family of 6 that will now forever remain a phantom limb in Erica's life. The planning of a family is one of the most fundamentally human acts of hope. It is a vote of confidence in the future, a belief that the world is stable and secure enough to bring new life into it. It involves late-night conversations, the weighing of finances, the consideration of age and health, and the joyful anticipation of watching a family's unique personality take shape. For Charlie and Erica, this process was well underway. They were in the thick of it, surrounded by the beautiful, demanding reality of 2 toddlers while gazing toward the horizon where 2 more little faces would appear. This vision of 4 children speaks to their temperament, their optimism, and their capacity for love. It suggests a couple unafraid of a full house, who found their greatest meaning not in their public roles but in the private, sacred space of family. The destruction of this plan is a central part of the tragedy. Grief is not only for the past shared but for the future stolen. Every milestone their existing children will hit, first days of school, graduations, weddings, will be shadowed by the silent presence of the siblings who should have been there beside them. The family portrait will always feel incomplete, not just because of Charlie's absence, but because of the 2 empty spaces where other children were meant to stand. This unfulfilled plan is a testament to the random cruelty of fate, a reminder that the future is not a promise but a possibility, and that the most carefully laid plans can be erased in an instant. She was praying to be pregnant with their 3rd child when Charlie was murdered. This admission adds an almost unbearable layer of poignancy to the story. In the days leading up to the tragedy, Erica's mind and heart were focused on the potential for new life. The ordinary hopes and anxieties of a woman wondering if she might be carrying a child were suddenly and violently juxtaposed with the ultimate finality of her husband's death. This prayer for pregnancy represents the pinnacle of their shared hope, a hope that was at its most active and fervent at the very moment it was extinguished. The emotional whiplash of this situation is difficult to comprehend. To go from the intimate, secret wonder of a possible pregnancy to the very public, brutal reality of assassination is a journey no person should ever have to make. She described the thought that she might be pregnant as a potential ultimate blessing out of this catastrophe, a single, shining thread of light in an otherwise impenetrable darkness. This reveals a profound strength and a desperate search for meaning, an attempt to find a counterbalance to the horror. Had she been pregnant, that child would have been a living, breathing legacy, a final gift from Charlie, a tangible connection to the father they would never know. The fact that this prayer was not answered in that way adds another dimension to her grief, the loss of that particular solace, the closing of that specific door. It underscores the totality of the rupture. Not only was the present shattered and the future they had planned demolished, but even the immediate, potential future of a new life growing within her was not to be. This point in her story highlights the cruel timing of tragedy. It strikes without regard for our plans or our prayers, often at the very moment we are most invested in the beauty and promise of life. Erica's private hope, shared now with the public, makes the scale of their loss feel more intimate and more vast. It's a reminder that behind the headlines and the political commentary, there was a family, in the most literal and biological sense, in the process of building itself, a process that was cut off at the root. Erica is a mother to their 2 young children, a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. These 2 children are now the living, breathing center of her universe, the reason she must find the strength to get out of bed each morning. Their ages are critically important to the story. At 3, a child is rapidly developing memory and language, old enough to have formed a deep bond with her father and to feel the bewildering ache of his absence. She is at an age of constant why questions, questions that now have unbearably painful answers. The 1-year-old son, however, is at a different stage. His memories of his father will be formed not from experience, but from stories, photographs, and the love that his mother pours into him. He will never know the sound of his father's voice directly, only through recordings. This dichotomy defines Erica's challenge as a single parent. She is navigating 2 distinct forms of grief, her daughter's conscious, confusing loss and her son's future, abstract loss. Her parenting must now be bifurcated, providing immediate comfort and explanation to her daughter while simultaneously building a foundational memory of a man for her son. The weight on her shoulders is immense. She is now the sole architect of their childhood, the only buffer between them and the harsh reality of their situation. Every decision, from the daily routines to the way she speaks about Charlie, is freighted with significance. She is not only managing her own profound grief but is also responsible for guiding 2 tiny, vulnerable humans through the same landscape of loss. This role as a young mother to very young children in the aftermath of a public tragedy is perhaps the most demanding aspect of her new life. There is no time for a quiet, private breakdown. Meals must be made, diapers must be changed, tears must be wiped, and stories must be read. The relentless, physical demands of motherhood continue unabated, even as her emotional world has collapsed. This constant, demanding love is both her burden and her salvation, tethering her to the present and giving her a purpose that transcends her own pain. She now advises young couples not to delay starting a family. This is the hard-won wisdom that Erica has forged in the furnace of her grief. It's a message that cuts directly against the grain of modern conventional wisdom, which often prioritizes career establishment, financial security, and personal fulfillment before children. Her advice is not given lightly, it is born from the searing experience of having a shared future with the person she loved most ripped away without warning. When she says, "Don't put it off," she is speaking from the ultimate place of what if. What if they had waited? What if they had decided to focus solely on Charlie's rising career with Turning Point USA for a few more years? The chilling answer is that their daughter and son might never have existed at all. Her children are now her greatest comfort, the living proof of her love with Charlie, and the reason she must carry on. She has learned in the most brutal way possible that the conditions for starting a family are never perfect, and that the assumption of a long, shared timeline is a privilege that not everyone is granted. Her message is particularly directed at young women, urging them to trust their biological clocks over their career clocks. She argues that while a career can be paused, restarted, or rebuilt, the window for having children is finite and precious. This perspective reframes the entire concept of waiting until you're ready. Erica's story suggests that readiness is an illusion. What matters is the willingness to love and to build a life, understanding that the future is a fragile, uncertain thing. Her advice is a profound recalibration of priorities, moving family from being one item on a life checklist to the central, irreplaceable core of a meaningful existence. It's a call to action rooted in the stark reality of mortality, a reminder that the greatest risks in life are not always financial or professional, but are often the risks of missed opportunity and love left unexpressed in the form of a family. Kirk emphasizes that you can always return to a career but not to having children. This statement is the logical extension of her previous advice, and it serves as a powerful, concise summary of her new philosophy. It's a piece of wisdom that challenges a dominant narrative in contemporary society, where professional ambition is often placed on a pedestal and family planning is scheduled around it. Erica's lived experience has taught her that this hierarchy is fundamentally flawed. A career is external, often defined by titles, salaries, and accomplishments that, while meaningful, can be lost, changed, or resumed. The path of a career is rarely linear. People change jobs, go back to school, start new businesses, or take sabbaticals all the time. The structure of the professional world, while not always forgiving, does allow for second acts and reinvention. The biological reality of having children, however, operates on a completely different and far less flexible timeline. For women, in particular, fertility has an expiration date. The years of peak fertility are a non-renewable resource. Once that window begins to close, it cannot be forced back open. No amount of money, success, or regret can turn back the biological clock. Erica's tragedy illuminates this truth with heartbreaking clarity. Charlie's career was cut short, but the true, irrevocable loss within their family unit is the children they will now never have. The two planned siblings for their daughter and son represent a door that is now permanently closed. This realization is what fuels her urgent message. She isn't dismissing the importance of careers or personal ambition for women, rather, she is recontextualizing them. She is suggesting that a career is a component of a life, while a family is the foundation upon which a life is built. The love, the connections, the memories, and the legacy created within a family are, in her view, the ultimate and most enduring accomplishments. Everything else can be rebuilt, but the chance to create a life, to bring a new person into the world, is a singular, fleeting miracle that should not be deferred for the transient promises of a professional trajectory. She expresses gratitude for the letters and gifts sent to her children. In the depths of her personal despair, Erica has made a conscious choice to focus on the outpouring of kindness, a testament to her character and her desire to build a positive world for her children. These letters and gifts are not just material objects, they are tangible representations of compassion, a global embrace for two children who lost their father in a violent and public way. For Erica, this mail is a lifeline. It tells her that her children are not alone, that their loss is seen and acknowledged by thousands of strangers. It provides a counter-narrative to the hatred and violence that took her husband, showing her that the world still contains immense goodness. She is meticulously curating her children's experience of this tragedy, and these gifts are a crucial tool in that effort. They allow her to frame their story not solely around loss, but also around love and community. Every package that arrives is an opportunity to sit with her daughter and say, "Look, someone you've never met is thinking of you and loves you." This practice is actively shaping her children's perception of the world, teaching them that even in the darkest of times, light can be found in the kindness of others. Her public expression of thanks is more than a polite gesture, it is an acknowledgement of the healing power of this support. It also serves a practical purpose, creating a buffer of positive stories around her family. In the chaotic and often toxic digital arena where her husband's name is a lightning rod, these physical tokens of love provide a safe, wholesome corner of reality for her and her children. They are building blocks for a new normal, one where their home is still a place that receives happy surprises and feels connected to a wider, caring community. Erica talks to her children about their father being in heaven. Faced with the impossible task of explaining death to a toddler and an infant, Erica has chosen a narrative of hope, continuity, and love. Heaven, in her telling, is not a distant, abstract place of sorrow, but a vibrant, active realm where their father continues to live, love, and watch over them. This is a beautiful and psychologically astute approach to childhood grief. For her 3-year-old daughter, concrete thinking dominates. The concept of a father who is completely gone is terrifying and incomprehensible. But a father who lives in heaven, who has fun days, and who can still influence their lives, is a concept she can grasp and find comfort in. It keeps Charlie present in their daily conversations and their imaginations. It allows his memory to be a dynamic, interactive part of their family life, rather than a closed chapter of the past. By telling her daughter that Daddy is telling all of his friends to send you gifts, she is seamlessly integrating the outpouring of public support into this comforting narrative. It connects the dots for a young child between the abstract love of a father in heaven and the tangible love arriving in the mail. This storytelling transforms a random act of kindness into a deliberate message from her dad, making the world feel safer and more magical. This approach is not about denying the reality of death, but about reframing it in a way that a child's mind can process without being crushed by the finality. It's about preserving the relationship, even in absence. The conversations about heaven ensure that Charlie remains an active character in their family story, a dad who is still involved, still loving, and still a source of excitement and joy for his children. She makes the concept of heaven exciting to help preserve his memory. This is the active methodology behind her spiritual talk. Erica isn't just mentioning heaven, she is world-building. She is creating a rich, engaging, and delightful narrative for her children, where their father is on a wonderful adventure. When her daughter asks, "Tell me about Daddy's Day in Heaven," it becomes a collaborative bedtime story, a creative act of remembrance that strengthens their bond and softens the edges of their loss. This practice does several crucial things. First, it associates thoughts of Daddy with feelings of happiness and curiosity, rather than solely with sadness and tears. This is vital for the children's long-term emotional health. It prevents their father's memory from becoming a source of perpetual pain. Second, it gives the children a sense of agency. They can ask about him, they can imagine what he's doing, they can feel connected to him through their thoughts and prayers. This helps combat the helplessness that loss inevitably brings. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it ensures that Charlie's memory will evolve as they grow. The stories of Daddy's Day in Heaven can change and become more complex as the children's understanding deepens. This narrative is a living, breathing memorial, one that grows with the family. It is a testament to Erica's strength and her profound love for both her children and her late husband. She is not just passively grieving, she is actively, creatively fighting for her children's joyful connection to their father. In doing so, she is building a foundation of resilience for them, teaching them that love is stronger than death, and that even the greatest losses can be met with courage, imagination, and an unwavering commitment to hope. Charlie Kirk was fatally shot during a speaking engagement at Utah Valley University in September. This is the stark, factual event that catalyzed this entire story, the public tragedy that precipitated this very private grief. The setting is significant, a university campus, a place dedicated to the exchange of ideas, debate, and learning. The event was part of his America Comeback Tour, a platform for his political activism. The violent interruption of such an event sent shockwaves far beyond his immediate family and followers, touching on broader, deeply fraught conversations about political discourse and safety in public life. For Erica and her children, however, the political context is secondary to the human reality. A husband and father went to work and never came home. The public nature of his death compounds the family's trauma. Their loss is not a private affair to be mourned in quiet solitude, it is a subject of national news, social media commentary, and political analysis. There is no hiding from the story, no escaping the constant reminders of how he died. This adds a layer of complex, public grief onto the already overwhelming personal grief. Every news report, every online mention, is a potential trigger, ripping the scab off the wound. For Erica, navigating this means having to process her own sorrow while also managing the way her husband's legacy and the story of his death are framed in the public eye. It is a heavy burden to bear, one that requires a level of poise and strength that few could muster. He was a controversial political activist leading the America Comeback Tour. This point acknowledges the reality of Charlie Kirk's public life without allowing it to define the entirety of his story or the depth of his family's loss. His role as the CEO of Turning Point USA and a prominent voice in conservative politics meant that he lived his life in the spotlight, championing ideas that garnered intense support from some and fierce criticism from others. This context is inescapable, as it shaped the environment in which he operated and likely contributed to the circumstances of his death. However, from the perspective of this story, the story of a family, his public persona is just one facet of a much more complex man. To Erica, he was not primarily a controversial activist, he was the man she loved, the father of her children, her partner in planning for a future with 4 kids. To his young daughter, he was simply Daddy, the man who read bedtime stories and whose day in heaven she now inquires about. This is the central tension and the profound human truth at the heart of this report. Every public figure, regardless of how they are perceived, is also a private individual, someone's loved one. A controversial legacy does not diminish the utter devastation of his murder for the wife and children he left behind. Their grief is not for the political activist, but for the husband and father. Their loss is not ideological, it is deeply, intimately personal. By focusing on Erica's story, the shattered plans for 4 children, the prayers for a new life, the struggle to explain heaven to a toddler, we are reminded of the human cost that exists behind the headlines and the political debates. It is a cost that is paid in sleepless nights, in empty spaces at the dinner table, and in the quiet, Herculean effort of a young mother to build a world of love and safety from the ruins of tragedy. Erica Kirk's journey through loss is a powerful testament to the human capacity to find meaning in the midst of despair. Her story transcends the specific political context of her husband's life and speaks to universal themes of love, family, and the fragility of our plans. The blueprint for a family of 4, now frozen in time, serves as a poignant reminder to cherish our loved ones and to recognize that the most important parts of our lives are often the most vulnerable. Her advice to young couples is not born of pessimism, but of a hard-earned understanding that life's greatest blessings should not be taken for granted. Through her creative and loving efforts to keep Charlie's memory alive for their children, she demonstrates that while a life can be ended in a moment, the bonds of love and family are not so easily broken. Her strength offers a quiet lesson in resilience, showing that even from the deepest darkness, it is possible to forge a new path forward, guided by the light of memory and the unwavering hope for a future where love, in some form, endures. If you found this story impactful, subscribe for more reports that explore the human experiences behind the headlines.